Alrighty, I came back. I ran the computer until it ran out of batteries and the stream died because the laptop went dead on me. Anybody who is still here, I am far from done, so we're going to keep going. And we are indeed back. I'm going to just return to how I had things before. I do see another problem. We're going to try to fix all the problems. Here's one. Main scene is black. Until we do this. Hi, we're back. The stream died because the laptop ran out of batteries. So time to put everything back together and continue. Oh, now what's happening? Oh, I bet I know. There I go. Yep. Having solved that, back to the screen, we can see that the Linux VST build finally completed. So, let's see. What are we doing? Excuse me. And we will go from here. Oh God, I'm screwing stuff up, forgive me. Streaming at too high a bit rate or something. Okay, good enough. Put the thing back. We should be good. There's OBS follies. On to the next job. And that would be firstly, Slow Sonic. This is the new one. We're going to copy that over to there. And now we don't need to be in this virtual machine anymore. But two things about that. One, I gotta eject this in order to have the files on the little USB card. And I'll be needing that. And then having done that, this version of Linux breaks and dies when I try to stop it and restart it. So what I've been doing is suspend. And that's how I run the Linux version of the virtual build. Meaning now I can quit that machine. And with that, I believe we are pretty much done with this laptop. So let's bounce back to the room and throw another log on the fire. I have been at this, and yeah, this is record collection. But I have been at this so long that not only did the laptop run itself dry and shut off, or it shut down, it kind of put itself to sleep and came back with all the programs still up, so that's cool. But also my fire has run out of wood, so I gotta throw another log in here. to catch, I hope, without needing to start it up or anything. And there we are. As you can see, we got another fire going after the previous one all ran out. And that went dead on me. Over we go. Okay, so at this point, we actually are finished with this laptop. We have done the AU version, we've done the VST, we did Windows, we did Linux, Intel, those were both in virtual machines. And so what we can do now is unplug this input and it will switch itself off. Here's my laptop streaming cable. I always loosely twine it around in the same way each time. I can go sit here, and this can shut down for now. And now we're over to the Raspberry Pi version. And I'm going to need these glasses because this is going to make me squint something fierce. Because this is not a bright little screen. It's also falling over a lot on me, but well, I'll hold it in place and deal with it. This, as one does. Plug it in the laptop and it says removable medium is inserted. So I'm going to squint my way to figuring out what I'm doing with this. It's going to be very difficult. Usually I have it plugged onto something better, but this time it's plugged into this tiny little thing, so whatever. I do at least have the basic idea of what I'm doing with it, so there's that. Scooch this over so that it's a little closer to the camera. Hold it up so that you can see. Here, can you read that? Neither can I. Like I said, usually I patch this into the screen that is above where the laptop is. There's a laptop and then there's a screen, so I can see what the camera's doing. Usually I plug this into that. But this time, low voltage warning. Don't be silly. You're powered off of a USB-C. Oh well. So we're going to want to open folder. I can just barely see this, but I think I can manage it. And there's a folder under here. It says VST build. This folder here, this is SRC. And this is the one where I'm going to want to delete this and replace it with this. It's distinctly more cumbersome than on the other Linux box. Original Slusonic. This one doesn't offer remove to trash or delete in place, but I can remove it to trash. We've just replaced it with the new one. Same deal. Here's our build file folder. I'm going to delete this because I feel like maybe if it is built, it won't try to build it again. Trash that as well. And now I open the terminal, and the terminal is less convenient on this than on either the Ubuntu box, this might also be Ubuntu, or Mac OS. So what we're going to do is type out the entire path manually. Although I do at least have tab completion, so there's that. That probably says home. I can't really read it on this tiny screen. Usually it's a different screen. Give me a second, Benjamin, I'll be with you. This is tough. Having gone to home, I also have to go to Pi. Seems to have done that, most likely. Then VST build, and then lowercase build. So now we're in the folder we need to be in to implement those same commands. Make dot and make. Difference being on this one, it's definitely a little pokier. And you can't see any of this. But the stuff that it's already built, it's kind of stepping through that in this little tiny terminal window the size of my finger. And then it will have a slightly different look when it reaches the Slusonic folder, which is a new folder with new code and no built-out object file. And there it is. And so it has now built that and is walking through all the other stuff. Unlike on the Ubuntu Studio build, it's not building each one. It's skipping over ones that have already been built. So it'll be finished pretty soon with its little terminal thing. This is yet another process of doing this. And there we have it. So close the terminal window. God, excuse me. We have this folder marked Pi, and we're going to drag the Slusonic that we just built over into this. And now we've got a Raspberry Pi version built on a Raspberry Pi 400. And we can eject this volume. If I can figure out how to eject the volume, this would be it. The light went off. That shows me that it's been ejected. And now I can shut off. I think log out, shut down ought to do it. And having done that, maybe I put this cable away because it didn't work for me once. I don't know. Tuck it over here on the grounds of now it has worked for me once. And we take the Raspberry Pi and sort of fold it back up and put it away. Ta-da! I'll pile it on top of the laptop. This screen I can just yeet. It was not fun to work with. The acoustic guitar to have less abrasive highs. Have you tried Airwindows Smooth? You could also try From Tape, simply because it doesn't have the head bump low end boost. And if you're doing acoustic guitar, you probably don't need or want massive low end boost. Put this silly screen back. Okay, so on our way, and guess where we are at now? We are getting ready to do the primary computer and the signed plugins. We're going the whole 9 yards. So let's move my musician reference mouse pad back over here. Because we're on the studio machine. And I think that's going to mean that we shut off our echo madness. This being our Echo Madness feedback effect, and we're no longer doing that. So goodbye to that, and hello to a screen that is not green like the lighting, but is actually my blue screen that I like. We no longer need this. Plugging that guy in. And here we have our plugins on the main system. And here's some stuff that's not actually going to matter because that's the old version. As you can see, we still have chamber. But, you know, this is where I keep stuff that is coming out. You can also see there is a production breaks. You can't actually see because I'm not sharing this screen. I'm not streaming from this, but it's on the screen. So what we're going to do is make a little folder. And this is my posting stuff folder. Command drag, move stuff even over removable volumes. Pi can move to dedicated Pi folder. These can move to retro. 32 can move to retro. We don't have our signed Mac yet because we're about to build that. So that's waiting on our Mac stuff, meaning now we have to update GitHub. Let me scooch over so that I can. Do I still? Well, the multi-track stuff is using a Motu, but the way that the big system is working, it's using the Motu for a multi-tracker for 16 tracks. And then the output of the mixer goes to the Lavry. So I've got an aggregate device that is Motu and then Lavry. New piece of paper. This is all I have to do for the signed stuff. And we'll walk through that. You won't actually see, you'll see the screen, but you won't actually be able to read it very much, but I gotta do this. I do intend to do another 2-tape in my copious free time, obviously. He says after being up at 1:30 in the morning needing to debug things. So, Airwindows. These need to be copied over to the end results. That being replace this. Do a little command delete for some of this stuff. Doing it over from scratch. We are. Did I already get that one? No. Did I already get that one? Yes. And lastly, now, having cleared those out, I assume I have cleared those out. Let's have a look in the trash. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different code bases. That sounds about right. That's the number of code bases I have, all independently managed. I envy the people that are that good with the scripting and stuff that they're able to make these things work for them. They all kind of work against me. Last of coffee 2. And here's how we make 4 things become 6 things. Linux CMake lists text is up to date, so command drag of, oh, what are you doing? Command drag of SluSonic to source of the Linux code base. MacAU over to MacAU without holding down command, it just copies. MacAU with holding down command to signed, and it moves. VST with SluSonic over to MacVST without holding down, just copies. That green plus is telling me it just copied. MacVST holding down command to signed, and it moves. And WinVST holding down the command, it moves to WinVST. And now we are done with shuttle for now. And I can put it away. I can put it in my little case. Because now we got to make the signed AU versions. Well, I also have a peek at. I'm just looking at chat. I can't see it too easily. Scooching over it also gives me like a half of a break. I am happy with Motu. You know, when I did, I'll tell you, Motu works well with Mac systems. RME works well with PCs, as I have been given to understand. So if you're looking for good enough prosumer level performance, depending on what platform you are, that might dictate which version you'd want to do. Again, I have gotten along pretty well with Motu stuff on the Mac. I'm given to understand that RME has that level of reliability on PCs. And I have that example of drums recorded through a bunch of different interfaces up on my channel. You can search for the humongous grand demonstration of all drums through interfaces, but I didn't actually have UAD or RME in those examples. I did have a Focusrite though, Behringer. And I need to put another log on the fire pretty soon, but let's jump in here. Here's my code base. So that's where I'm going to be working. Give me a moment though. I'm going to throw another log on. I'm also making a break pit stop so I can code more comfortably. I've thought of getting a big hourglass so that I can put the hourglass on and boop, and you could watch it, see how long it goes. I'm back. Also, I threw another log on the fire, so it is now a very enthusiastic wood stove fire. This is going to get me nice and warm. It's cozy. Back to the system. Tracking interfaces. People are chatting about stuff. Yeah, I have found Apogee to be good as well, although I have not had lots of channels from Apogee. I had very limited numbers of channels from Apogee. So let's continue because we're still getting ready to do Sonic. We've been at it since like 3. We've been at it for so long that the laptop ran out of juice and killed the stream because I forgot to plug it in. If I'm doing extremely long streams, you can remind me to plug the laptop in from time to time. Like right now it is up to a level of about 62%. After having been drained from like fully charged to nothing in a single stream. I don't like charging it to 100 because it'll deplete the battery that way, but also draining it so hard also doesn't do the battery any good. And we are going to resume, having made my little pit stop, with the signed versions of the plugins. I've finished all my coffee for the morning. I've done all of the new versions of everything. And only the first hour or two was the debugging. Everything else has been simply porting. There is a lot of work that goes into this stuff. Oh, you know something I could do though? While I'm doing this, let's also do something else. Let's go to the Go Live. And this is everybody. I can at least have chat visible, so I can see chat here as well as there, and that will make things it'll allow me to be a little bit more conversational, you know what I mean? So here's my instructions. Copy AU folder over to new location to be worked on. Edit the CPP file. In this case, it is only one at a time. So Sonic CPP component entry becomes audio component entry. All caps. And then over here, AU base factory, comma. So we need to edit that. Save, make sure I did it right. Edit the plugin EXP file. I think I can just double click that guy. Oh, I am mistaken. You cannot. I did it wrong. Which is not to say that I broke anything, but I like doing these in certain orders and with certain programs, and I'm doing it in a program I do not want. I opened up all of Xcode just to do that. I don't like that. So we're going to open with BBEdit. See, that's much faster. And Copy, paste, paste. And it has to be Sonic entry and Sonic factory. Factory. And yep. Looks right. Now I gotta go and dig for some other information, just a moment. So, at the side of my screen here, I have stuff saved. This is a text clipping with a bunch of stuff in it. So I've copied that. I also want to have a peek at Sonic version. SLSN is its comp subtype. So what I want to do is, this is one that I think I can just open a BB edit directly. Info plist. Here's info plist. Sure enough, it opens in BB edit. Paste this in at the top. And I don't remember what I just saw. SLSN. These 4 question marks need to be replaced with what that was. So Sonic SLSN. That's the new info plist. Now I get to go into Xcode by clicking on this, which launches it. My stomach is rumbling because it wants breakfast. Oh, we'll let it have breakfast later. Delete folders in red. Public utility, AU public. There they are. Delete. Delete. Drag in CA SDK. That's down here. I've got all this stuff color-coded in yellow. It has to do with the signed AU plugins. Drag this in, drag it at source in front of AU source. Edit targets, added folders, create groups. That is correct. Finish. It's now added that stuff. Although it doesn't know to refer to it yet, I'm going to have to do that later. I'll talk you through all of this. These are all the things I have to remember for every single plugin every time I go through it. Scheme, any Mac. Scheme is this section up here. See, it says edit scheme, new scheme, manage schemes, but until you click on it, it doesn't say crap about schemes. We're going to edit this. I am not at all sure this is necessary, but when it's on run, I am making it the run on build configuration release. It's going to go to any Mac, M1 and also Intel, but the way I've got it set up now, it's looking for any Mac i386 deprecated Intel, which is not correct. So we got some stuff to do before we can make this thing work. Project, well, first I have to click on this. Clicking on that gets me those, and that says project and targets. I click on project, info, macOS deployment target 11.1. It can all go all the way to 13.1, but I like going almost as early as I can and keeping it the same each time. And then we're over to build settings, and this is here down to here. So, build settings, architectures. We're going from Arch's standard 3264-bit to standard architectures Apple Silicon Intel. We're going to a default. Base SDK, this absolutely needs to be updated. Instead of being 10.6 SDK not found because Apple deletes its old SDKs and doesn't let Xcode work with them. macOS. My older retro stuff is built on an antique laptop for just this reason. Build active architecture only, yes, although I'm going to tell it to have all the architectures active, but this is the way that you set it up. Scroll downwards to search paths. linking, packaging, search paths. Always search user paths deprecated should be no. It will cause problems if it is not. Header search paths, I need to paste in something. So on the desktop it's here. Copy, close. Header search paths. Yep, that's what that was. Paste that in. And there we go. Targets. This section over here. Now we have another batch of things that we can do. Build settings, architectures, not multiple values, but standard architectures. It was previously set to build on PPC, which it no longer knows how to do it. Yeah, this is some extra deal. Base SDK, macOS. Deployment. Scroll down until we find deployment. Oh, God, excuse me. Sometimes this is a lot of hours spent doing this. Oh, I did not build this studio desk myself. This is an Argosy. I've been doing this stuff for years and I've been able to put things together. I've owned this desk for many years. It's actually pretty worn out at this stage. And I had to replace the vinyl with my own, which the material that they put on this is basically just Tolex. So I got vinyl fabric from a Joanne Fabrics that has recently gone out of business. And I got this before it went out of business and replaced the black Tolex that had been worn out and all scrunchy with sort of butterscotch colored Tolex. But that's how that is done. You get some sort of felt underneath there or whatever, and then you wrap it with Tolex like it was a speaker cabinet, and that's what this is. Where had I left off? Deployment. So targets, deployment, script style, debugging symbols. This is important. It will not build correctly if you don't do that. Deployment macOS deployment target to 1.11.1. Not multiple targets, but only the one target. And then there's a thing in here, res from the earlier build. After the Apple CLang options, other res flags. See, it says D, PPC, PPC, i386, PPC 64. None of that's going to make any sense here, so it all needs to go away. Multiple values, minus, and that goes away. Some of these things I have to do every bit of it, and some of them, like with the scheme stuff, maybe cargo code stuff, where I'm doing it, I'm used to doing it, but it might not be necessary. Other res flags, so deleted. Build phases. This does have to be done. Build carbon resources, 2 items. And it says A resources and Slusonic R, but we don't use carbon resources on modern Macs, and so this is the thing that will break if you include it, so we delete it. And now we go to the schemes. Any Mac, Apple Silicon, Intel means it will build both versions. It'll build the fat binary. Back over to target signing and capabilities. This is the reason we're doing this whole other version, is so that it can be code signed and people have to like do stuff in terminal to let their thing work. So first stage through, we're going to set it to automatically manage the signing. Team is Christopher Johnson, that's me. And it'll only let you do development. And we're going to do a build, but this is not the build we're going to keep because this is not correct for building the sign thing. And it's going to go through and it's found some issues which we can automatically walk through. update to recommended settings. I always like to do this even though I'm changing it away from the recommended settings later, and migrate a bunch of translations which I'm not actually using. So if I click on this, it'll say migrate to a modern version. It's blank, so it doesn't really matter. And these days, in the most recent version of Xcode, if I do this, it does the change and then it leaves the issue still there, but if I click it again, nothing happens. This is just kind of there for some reason now. I've now done all of those updates, walked through all those localizations. Now we go back to targets, setting and capabilities, checking to make sure that we're still set to build any Mac, Apple Silicon, or Intel. And we turn off automatically managed signing. So we're doing it manually. Christopher Johnson, and plugins need the signing certificate for developer ID application in order to work. And so I had to get that certificate from Apple. I have to keep an Apple developer account active, which I do. And having done this, we can now build or indeed go directly to archive, which will involve building again. Although I'm going to take a moment and delete the previous example of, here's my distribute folder, and we're going to be replacing this, so we don't want to have it be there. In fact, I'll do the same thing for the VST while I'm at it. Finding SluSonic and removing them. And there. HC distribute and AU distribute. Oh, and I just went to the wrong place, so let's go back. So, archive, build configuration, release. And Xcode is now bugging me that it wants to automate things in cloud, but if it automated it, it would be doing the way Apple intended, and Apple does not set this up correctly. So we're going to dismiss that, and then please build this for me, thank you. It is successfully built, archive succeeded, distribute content, built products, and then we go to desktop, AU distribute, and we'll see over on this side of the screen that it is placing a thing there. Close the archiving window, and we can now close this Xcode window, and we have succeeded in making a signed version of the AU plugin. Now to do the other side of this page, the signed VST Mac version. And once we've done those, we can walk through packaging them into a thing. What are the monitors? Oh, these are Yamaha NS10s. I'm an NS10 guy. Like, anytime you've heard sound playing through the system rather than pipe directly through it, what you're hearing is the NS10s and my subs being picked up in the room off a Sennheiser shotgun mic. It's actually a Sennheiser Ultra Super Hyper Cardioid mic. It's not quite a shotgun. So we've now succeeded in doing the signed AU. Now we got to step forwards and do the signed VST. And that's like that there. In this case, it is, and the reason I like the, firstly, the reason I like the NS10s, and I've worked on them, I have modified them somewhat in that I've attended to the cabinets are slightly more damped than garden variety stock ones, and they're stuffed with fiberglass, which I think is actually normal for those. But the reason I like them is that they retain very little energy. Like, sounds that you make through the NS10s are almost instantly gone, and that makes them very transparent, while not necessarily nice sounding. But if you're into transparency along the lines of electrostatics and things, then this is why they work well for mixes, is you can hear what you're doing in them. Like if you can make it sound good on an S10, it's because you're hearing what the raw sound is without any resonances to make it sound warmer or nicer. Anywho, we are not quite done with our work, although we're making good time. It's like dawn outside by now. It's 6:30 around here. And our next step is to just straight up launch Xcode again. Because doing the VST port to the signed version, you copy the VST folder over and then immediately open Xcode and start working. And so that's what we're going to do. But there's other things to do here. Firstly, delete folders in red, VST SDK 2.4, here it is. And delete entire external frameworks and libraries. It has QuickTime and Carbon in there. Neither of those things are relevant for a plugin. So we're going to delete some things, and then it wants to remove reference to Carbon Framework. Now that stuff is out of the way. Drag in VST SDK 2.4 as present on the desktop, which is this. I have it set up in advance to have the right stuff in it, and only the right stuff in it. So this is my private copy of it. And we're going to drag it into this side here. Create groups, add to targets to Sonic, and boom, VST SDK is now in the project. Scheme. Becca, it doesn't say scheme anywhere here. It doesn't even say scheme on the top here, but this up here you're supposed to know is a scheme. I click here and it says gain. Now, this is not gain, this is slew Sonic. So what we got to do is go to manage schemes. If I click auto create schemes now, it'll make one that says slew Sonic, at which point gain is highlighted and I can hit delete. And do you really want to delete the scheme gain? Why yes, yes I do. I am also going to do my cargo call thing of going to run and hitting release, although I think that actually means run within Xcode. So there's no reason for me to be doing this, but still looks like, well, I got shades everywhere these days, making it's more controllable for the videos, and also I'm going to need those shades up by the time summer comes around, because by the time summer comes around, sunlight beating into this place will make it become an oven very quickly. And so I'm kind of, although I wouldn't be amiss to being warmed by the sun at this time when it's still winterish, I know I'm going to go to wanting to warm up a little bit more. So build configuration release for run, probably not relevant, but cargo called stuff, if I can get it working, I kind of stick to what I know. In this, there is a control, like we said, manage schemes. There's a button that says auto create schemes. It auto created a scheme for me. I had to hit this check mark too, obviously. So that is a thing that I did. That's why I haven't signed on to VST SDK 3, is because there was a phase where apparently they were taking the rights away, and I just can't risk that. I need to release retro stuff for older computers. It's important to me, so I can't risk that. Yeah, I have hopes that there might be a way for me to also target VST3, but it might have to be through Paul, through Bacon Paul. We're going to also look into doing, improving the clap building, and there may be a way to have his clap system output a VST3 plugin, because I think that his build system is able to do that. And yeah, Paul is in charge of being able to bring all the VST stuff into a system and make a plugin that lets you pick any of them. We've got that set up where if he does it right, all he has to do is sort of hit a button and it automatically takes everything that I build, which is very regularly you can see how I'm doing it, like the way I'm walking through this stuff, although it's slower because I'm explaining it all. Like again, I have done this hundreds of times, hundreds and hundreds of times. So we're going to go through this one more time, like I have hundreds of times. Scheme, auto create schemes, and I think I set the edit scheme, run to release. That doesn't necessarily do anything, but I'm used to thinking it does. Project, macOS deployment target 11.1, over to build settings, architectures and base SDK, standard architectures, and macOS. Build architecture only, yes, but they're all going to be active. Search paths, always search user paths to set to no in the VST. It's like magic cult stuff because I don't really know what I'm doing. Although always search user paths deprecated, if this is set to yes, it breaks. So some of this stuff I had to experiment around until it worked, and then I wrote down what I did, and then I repeat that. I'm not good enough to master this stuff or know what a lot of it is talking about. All I can do is the best I can with what I've got. Over to targets. The build settings. We're already set to build settings. Architectures. Scroll up to the top. Not multiple values, because multiple values it says release PPC i386 x86 64. It can't build for PPC, it doesn't know how. So we got to update that one. The standard architectures. We also are updating base SDK because that's the mess. Again, it says release and it's looking for macOS 10.5 SDK. That's from off of this older computer. And I just copied over the project file, so I got them updated to modernistical things that the compiler can understand and remove all these references to older stuff. And that's what I'm doing by hand every time I do a plugin. Deployment. So we're going down to deployment. Here's deployment. Here's the things I need to do here. Installation directory. These are in order on my screen. It needs a deployment specified. So installation directory, home, library, audio, plugins, VST. And that changed it to users Christopher Dunson, library, audio, plugins, VST, because home was in all caps and that was a fill in the blank. It updated it to what the local thing was. Deployment strip style, debugging symbols rather than, because if you strip all symbols, it breaks because the signing needs to have some symbols in it, apparently. I'm not entirely sure which symbols are, but they're important. Symbols are like ways the debugger can understand stuff. Deployment, macOS deployment target, where's that? Here it is. 11.1. Release, it says 10.4. It doesn't know how to do that. It needs to be updated. If it tries to do that, it will break. Packaging, here's a gotcha. Had to fix this one. Linking, localization, packaging. Check this out. Product name. What it says here is Debugging release Slusonic. Both of those need to say Slusonic. We're not doing a debug build, but it will still fail to work unless I update this bit. Project module name doesn't actually relate. Updated to that. Enter it, and product module name got updated. A bunch of things get updated when you update product name. Like it changes stuff elsewhere in the system. Search paths, header search paths. So there we are. It's currently /VST SDK 2.4 And that means it's looking at the root level of the Mac. But I can't put stuff at the root level of the Mac in modern versions of macOS because it's protecting anything from being run there. So what we got to do is go to this other thing, and that is replacing this text with uses Christopher Johnson desktop via SDK 2.4, and then it will be able to find it. And then user defined, which I believe is right down at the bottom, GCC model tuning. We are not using GCC. That's an older compiler for the older computers. So we remove multiple values because it says debug G5 and release like G4 or something. That's before Macs were even on Intel. G5s and G4s are PPC processors. Not even this is using a PPC processor, but the stuff that I compile here will run on Macs with PPC processors, and so I continue to support those because I'm kind of crazy that way, but I also like doing it, and it's kind of a lot of work to do, and that's the case for literally everything that I make. So if you have an antique Macintosh that you'd like to build into a music studio, I got your back. I consider that important. Build phases, delete build carbon resources, which is actually 0 items, but we don't need this build phase. So goodbye. Over to signing and firstly, remember to build any Mac Apple Silicon /Intel. Now I'll go over to signing and capabilities. And again, we'll go to automatic so that it can do its things. Team is Christopher Johnson, that's just me. Only option is development, or you can say sign to run locally, but I do not care. And build. And we are building a thing. And build succeeded. Yay. I should have warnings. I can make them show up by clicking this. See the little triangle that you can't actually see on screen? It says 6 issues, and they are the same things I did at the previous one, where the stuff shows up, and then I like to update that stuff so that the build system is happier with how I've got it configured. So update to recommended thing. All that means is I'll read what it says, because you can't. Remove obsolete build setting, GCC enable fix and continue. Adopt product bundle identifier build setting. So that's presumably something that needs to be done. Enable weak references and manual retain release. I have no idea what that means. Enable Objective-C. We're not using Objective-C for the debug configuration, and it's doing that again. It's also in Objective-C. We're not using Objective-C. Enable dead code stripping. I probably don't have any dead code, but it seems like a good idea. And enable all the recommended warnings. Empty loop bodies, infinite recursions, mismatched return types. Just a lot of stuff. And, unused functions, unused variables. It'll warn me about all those things. And then turn on enable testability, missing localizability, a bunch of things. I'll tell it to do all of that stuff. And then we're going to migrate all of the translations that we don't actually have any, but we want it in the format that the system likes. And same deal, I think, with this last one. You hit it and the issue doesn't go away for some reason. It used to on older versions of Xcode, but now it doesn't, but it still seems to work. So what are you going to do? And back to targets and signing and capabilities. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to have the team be me, but we need to set the signing certificate to developer ID application because it is a plugin. So the signing acts like it's an app. And the correct certificate to use for it is the developer ID application. Now, Apple's people having to do with signing, they want you to do everything based on automatically managing it and then have a complicated thing in terminal with removing the certificate that you added and then arbitrarily putting the developer ID application certificate on. And they want you to do that in the terminal rather than in Xcode. I would rather just do it in Xcode, so I'm doing it manually and going like, use the correct certificate from the first, please. And that does seem to work. Check to make sure that it is any Mac. Otherwise, I might be not building for one of the architectures we need, and we'll go directly to archive because that will involve building again. Build configuration release. We have successfully built. Yay, we're doing quite well. And distribute content. Build products. Over to the VS2 distribute folder, and we'll see it show up over here. Boop. Close this, close this. And we've now successfully built all the plugins, although we still have packaging everything up and doing the blurbs and all of the stuff. And so we ain't close to done yet, but we've finished all the actual coding stuff. Everything else is just auxiliary extra stuff that I must do. So for starters, let's open this folder that says signed Mac. This is stuff that I'm going to use. And let's get the AU plugin out. This is now the one that we're going to want. Notice I have a chair over there that I can sit in, and a ring light for a light over there, so that if I ever wanted to appear particularly angelic, I could turn that light on and ha. But that's just my little joke. I might take it back away again. Anyway, the way that I drill down into these folders is with Command O and a down space. Because otherwise what you're doing is you're going like dum-de-dum, and then you gotta click on that, and there's double clicks all the way down. But I can manually do that with the keyboard by going Command O, down space, Command O, down space. And that gets me to where the plugin is. So I'm gonna option drag it just to leave one there. But that is the plugin we're going to want to use for the signed. Here's the VST. Same deal. Command O, down. Anybody who's watched me code has seen me do sequences of keystrokes like that a lot. And now we're done with those folders, and it is time to drop these things into the enclosing folder, which we then drag over to this that says drop DMG. This is making me a disk image file. The disk image file is the thing that we sign. And I'll tell you where we can put that. This one that we left a little while ago. And we're finished with that. That's where I store large numbers of these when I'm doing this for a bunch of plugins at a time. Because a lot of it is quicker when you're doing many plugins at a time. And we aren't quite done with that, so we're not quite finished. Can't put it there yet, because we got to do this. SD Notary. This is good at doing that notarizing stuff that I need to do. So we're going to tell it submit now, and hopefully it won't require me to do anything else. Anytime Apple releases a new version of anything, it'll break this process and there will be errors and it won't tell you what's wrong, and usually it means you got to sign on to Apple's website's developer website and agree to a new agreement is usually what happens when it's having a problem here. It has now uploaded that stuff to Apple's servers and it is scanning it for viruses and things. It's been pretty good about never finding false positives. Of course, it's Apple's Xcode that has produced all the code, so you would imagine that it would know how to avoid false positives. And what it says here is upload result, no errors. Checking for the results of Apple's process usually takes several minutes, could take even longer, awaiting result from Apple. So I'm going to throw another log on the fire, and I'll get back to that. That's going to make me wait. And it said it's been notarized and will now be stapled. Stapling means that they have the "this is okay" certificate and is attaching it to the file in such a way that other people's Mac OSs can understand it. And it's now ready for distribution. So it says Sonic notarized, and here's a disk image. I open this up and we've got the unmodified original, some notes and logs and things, and Sonic DMG, this is what we're going to keep. You can throw that away now. And here we are, we now have the final version for posting to the Airwindows website. This here, and that is the zip that I upload to WordPress when it's time to post. But that's not all we have to do. We're still going. So what's our next step? Our next step is all of the collections. Collections often come out first. We often have that going on where the collections come out first, and sometimes they'll tell Patreon like, oh hey, this is ready to go. I haven't made the post yet, but I've uploaded the collections first. So how do we set that up? Well, firstly, these things need doing. Here's what.txt. There's two purposes for this. One, anything included in this gets built into the VCV Rack plugin. But it's also my quick sort of reference for that stuff, a real quick summary. And Sonic came after slew only, so here's where I start writing and combining stuff and explaining what the plugin actually is, like what it does. So slew Sonic combine slew only with ultrasonic filtering. For Trouble plugin, how about to solo brightness? You can take an entire drum track, use this, and get back out like literally only the cymbals. So, or focus brightness, solo or focus. What shall I call it? That's the question. Do I call it soloing brightness or do I call it focusing brightness? Highlight? Let's call it soloing brightness, because that's what it acts like when you put it on a drum track. All of a sudden that's all you have, and the way the plugin works, you can adjust it all you want, but all you're doing is more or less of the soloing. You don't actually get to solo it and then bleed in the dry. Instead, it's a simpler dealy. Although one of the things about it is that if that works, it could be used as a source for, a presence control on something. But for the time being, we're going to call it solo brightness. Period. And having written that, we're going to, categories. We have a dedicated brightness category. That is the perfect place for this. In fact, it is so good that it might be up high on the list. Let's put it up here. Let's put it there. It was very cool. I like the way it sounded. Let's put it right at the top. The reason everything has to be in one of these categories is because this is how Paul's compilation plugins that give you every possible Airwindows plugin in a single go, this is how they produce menus. He's got stuff that reads this and spits out a menu based on what I have here. So again, I have to do it perfectly, but then he doesn't have to do any work when I do it. And I also get control over what the names of the menu items are, where things are, how they're categorized. He's got a setup where I have it it will be in the order I specify unless you ask it to be alphabetical order. So I get to have stuff be on the top of the menus if I think that they are better than other things. And that's what's happening here is I've got a menu dedicated to brightness. So I love Slusonic for that. I think it really succeeded. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put it on the top of the list for the brightness menu option. Then is debass, then is de-essing, and so on and so forth. Also note that somebody was talking about acoustic guitars, and smooth is high on the list of brightness modifiers. And now I gotta go down to here. We're scrolling through all of Airwindopedia. Spiral, stereo, slew, tape, it's too late. L comes before P, oh god. So 2 through 3, slew only. And I copy that. This also gives me the text for my post and my forum posts. And we're going to tuck this under here. And again, if I do this perfectly, then Paul is able to do things with his scripting and stuff and create stuff. Where that's another thing is his plugins are able to slurp in all of Airwindopedia and compress it handily. And that means all of this is available as like plugin notes. Honestly, I should probably tell them like, yeah, just do all the variations of plugins that you can. Do an AU, why not? People can have my independent individual AUs if they want, but you can also have the one where bring on the Airwindows plugin, and then you select which one you want, and he's able to make those, and he's able to output multiple different formats using those. So I'm inclined to at some point tell him, yeah, just go for it. Just go for doing as many formats as you can, and I will direct people to them, and if people prefer using them that way, then they should. We'll see what we can make happen. It's the beauty of open source is that can happen. But now I have to write, I don't know if I'd want to call it ad copy, but I have to explain how it works and do one of my little blurbs. So let's talk that out. Let's come up with an answer for this. But first, I have to change the name, because I just copied and pasted that. But you know what? I actually need it to say this. Because we're not actually slew only, we're slew sonic. Combines it with ultrasonic filtering to solo brightness. But it's technically not even ultrasonic filtering, because you can crank it up all the way and then take it down to 5K. So it's not even ultrasonic filtering anymore. This plugin was a journey. Video isn't even its final form. Oh, apostrophe. The idea was to find out whether slew only aliases. Could you filter and get a smoother slew only? I'm going to say the answer is kinda. But then things got out of hand. Stack up 3, I think 3 is the limit. Three instances, each with filtering around them to resist aliasing, except always ultrasonic. 25K does count as ultrasonic. When you do that, you get the smoothest, darkest slew only ever, which is a ridiculous concept, but what the hey. We'll get excited and do an exclamation mark hey. But what even is slew only? Monitoring plugin, very simple. And balances the levels. In a calibrated way. Help you mix. alongside sub only and peak only. It's there to show you stuff you wouldn't hear off just the regular mix. The idea is that each of these different forms of monitoring should balance out about the same. Like switch over to slew only and it should still sound like a mix, and it should still be about the same volume, and it should still be about the same density. The thing is, when you stack those up, calibrated volume adjustment, it's more and more extreme. So mega boosts can create really loud super treble. And this could be useful highlighting symbols. Whispers. Anything where you want to solo those frequencies. The bright control. The direct sound. And the mute control. Specifies so we could fight aliasing even at lower sample rates. Coulad? No, could. Typo. And then back over to what I'm imagining of it. And I'm imagining it for things like hats and stuff. I'm going to say you should be able to get exactly what you want. And I'll finish it off with hope you like it. Hope you like Sonic. And we're going to save that. And we're going to get a bunch of this stuff set up. And now we're going to option drag this over to Airwindows because this is where the GitHub stuff is affected. And now I gotta make the packages, but first let's put the what and the Airwindopedia into the relevant places because that's important. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's virtual 1 BSC32, 6, 7, there. Now I got to move the actual plugins into the relevant places. Out of this little folder, which is all the most recent ones. So there's our options. Firstly, regular Linux. Have we even done this yet? I guess it's new, that's why it's not replacing anything. Raspberry Pi. RetroMac AU. RetroMac VST. Retro Windows 32. Signed comes out of this DMG file. Signed AU. Signed VST and Windows 64. We no longer need this file. We no longer need this. Actually, we might as well do one final thing. Let's reopen that up. Nope, that wasn't even the correct one. Screw it, let's do it this way. Reopen that. Reopen this, and let's make sure that these are going to the right place. Get rid of that. This doesn't have to be open. This doesn't have to be open. This doesn't have to be full. So now we've done all of those things. I'm assuming we're still streaming. Well, it's been like an hour since I last coded and we're still at it. We're getting closer to being done. We no longer need this. all of these have already been done for the day, so got there for one plugin for each instance. Let's make the collections. Compress each one, or almost each one. Exceptions to be forthcoming. Mm-hmm. 132. We don't do this with the sign Mac, but we do this for the sign VSTs because make DMG is not working properly with the DMG. This is not working with that. Let's clean that up. I drag this to drop DMG as part of my signed process. I gotta re-sign the distributed package. Busily doing that. And then if I drag signed Mac VSTs over to it, it's sometimes giving me problems, but if I compress it, it's happier. So we do that. And now we can get rid of the zip file that was just the source of it, converting it into another format. And guess what? We're going to do Notary again. SD Notary. And submit that. And this is going to have me waiting around a little bit. But you know what? I believe we have updated Airwindowpedia. Sure enough. So one thing we can do is, no, we don't actually, in this version, we do not have that. We're going to go to that, but actually the complete has it. CD users, Christopher Johnson, I don't even have to drag it in. All I have to do is use the up and it completes it. And get pull origin master. It's up to date. Add A, which is basically some new stuff. Commit M. So Sonic, and it'll show me the various things that have been changed here. Let me 27 files changed, 1,000 insertions, 897 deletions, a bunch of things changed. And then push. So now this is all ready for Paul to hit a button and it'll automatically go into the rack plugin. So we got that part going. And we are still underway. Also, the code is now up on GitHub, for those who like that. We don't need terminal anymore today. And we are waiting on the signed Mac version. But something we can do while we're at it is begin doing all of the posts. Central not getting a lot of chat. I'll get back to chat, but go to the Airwindows website. So this is going to become a thing where you're not going to be able, well, I can do even better than that. Well, I'm logging into the site, enjoying the nice fire. Alrighty, that ought to do. Oh, look, somebody recently asking for sample delay. That's one of the things I have on work. And other people finding faults with various different things, as one does. We got comments of some kind. I think there's a comment that needs to be approved. Oh, pending. Late, but late what? What are you doing? Oh, online encyclopedia of integer sequences. I will allow that to be posted. Okay. Approve. I think I found that. Dashboard, got another update on something. What's the update? SSL. WordPress is a ridiculous thing. We're going to edit a post and add a new post. Calling it Sonic. Oh, hey. Stapling successful. Let's do the same thing, but for VSTs. Here's our assigned AU's collection. Any Mac ought to be able, modern one ought to be able to jump on that quite happily. So no longer need this file. And the VSTs are underway. Now we're copying the TLDW thing. But we're going to use the text from out of Airwindopedia that I just wrote. It all initially came from the posts and went into Airwindopedia and then went back the other way again. So now it starts in Airwindopedia and goes into the post. ST and grab that. Copy, save, close, quit. And there's how the post happens. I had already written something much like it. And while we are waiting for the signed VSTs to be done, what we're going to do is drag our Sonic zip right over to here. It says 514K. So we add this dot zip run. Okay. And now that's linking to the thing that's just been uploaded to the WordPress site. And that is a completed post too. Except not quite, is it? Because we got like plugin title web forum. So if I copy and paste this, I put it at the end of the post. And that's links to all the collections, which are also up at the top corner of the site. And it's also a link to where you get the VCB Rack module. I'll continue to have other stuff like that as they become available. And we also got to move this over so I can see when it's ready. Categories, audio unit, free, I'll call it innovative, sure. And VST, tags. I'm not sure if we've established that it is truly nonlinear. I'm not convinced that really is nonlinear, but it definitely is EQ. It definitely is get sample rate. And it's definitely ultrasonic filtering. And definitely zero latency, so we got that. So I'll leave nonlinears for things like distortions, where you know it's distorting, it's going to alias, etc. Compressors also. I'm not sure slew only really does have the nonlinearity, but we'll find out. And the rest of this, I'm going to wait for a video, or actually I'm going to go and get a video. That being from my actual YouTube studio, published videos. That's now done. So the stapling succeeded. So now we have the VSTs also. So let's get this out of the way in order to dig this out of here, put it there, and now I've got that stuff that can be uploaded. That can go away, that can go away, that's been uploaded. I'm not going to empty trash on this just yet, but got that stuff cleared up. And while we're at it, let us launch an FTP thing and log into Airwindows, content uploads, etc. Drop the updates on the actual website and allow that to upload while dealing with this. So here's the video that I just posted. I'm going to stick this on the post, even though it is not really quite the same, but yeah, whatever. And see, Monday 10 hours ago, it's not been 10 hours, I did sleep for a couple of hours, but share, embed, and copy gets me just to post in this box, and then I copy that because I'm going to be using that very soon. And it's now posted to the website, and you can download it now if you want. It's ready. Whatever's the company. Ooh, $25 mixer. Very cool. You know, I recently watched somebody talk about doing ways of making mixers feedback into each other and jamming with the mixer. Yamaha stuff is along the lines of I've had some of the synths, like an FB01 I had. I think I might have had a DX7 once. I don't think I kept it. And one of the itty bitty like CS01. I don't have it anymore, or I have it, but I think it's broken. Where was I at? We don't need this. We need to fire up Gearspace so that I can make a post there. New thread in new product alert. The thread's going to be this content. Yep. You'll see how I do these posts as well. Topic, software. I don't think I have a post icon specified. Nor is it really, if there's anything more I need to do there. I just had to select the stuff up top. And plugin title. EST rack. Rack is going to be forthcoming. But now we've got that, so open up a Facebook page that will not use this literal title, and then the other ones will. So KVR gets the title. Oh look, we've got some commentary on here. Skip ahead, but then jump to the category and start the new topic. People don't really respond on KVR, but it's a legit site, so I post there. What had they been talking about? Oh, it's the fellow found a way of adjusting the ultrasonic filters. I actually had the same information. And they sent an email to chrisj@airwindows.com. Undelivered mail returned to sender. That's because it's Airwindows, not Airwindows. And sure enough, Andy is Doug. Oh, look, he has math. Cool. That's interesting. I'm not sure where he gets all this math, but this is some of the ways of doing cascade. Cool. I'll be looking up this later. Seems like I've accidentally found the ad. I think you have. Yes. And if you're using 10 biquads, you can do 120 dB per octave filter. Woo! Or you can do 2 equal Butterworth filters of order n, and it becomes Linkwitz-Riley, okay? Bunch of cool filters. Very neat. Okay. See, this is one of the cool things about KVR. They are full of all kinds of stuff going on. But we're going to move on from there. And KVR. Dogs on Acid is a bit of a pet favorite forum for mine because this is a bunch of crazy drum and bass heads out of UK. They suggest that I should post on the grid. I will do that thing. And then lastly, I always like to post to PRW forum. PRW is a bunch of old sound engineers that made the records in my record collection. And it's, I don't know how private it is, but somewhat private. And sometimes you get a lot of views, like 2,000, and sometimes you get like 40. But there are folks here who know who I am, and I have all the respect for these guys. So, by the permission of Terry Manning, who manages the group, I post my new stuff there too. And with that, we are ready to move over to some of these things. I have in fact posted this, and this does not get any further details, so it ends up looking like this. And there we are. And then in the YouTube studio, let's copy some of this over. We're going to edit this. I'm going to paste that in, and we're going to have the hot point to my usual being firstly the plugin, then the Patreon. Rather than first the Patreon and then the plugin, it goes first the plugin, then the Patreon, because that's the order of importance. I had to make the website be HTTPS eventually in order to deal with modern stuff. And if I typo, people can't download, so we're not going to do that. Getting groggy enough that I'm mistyping, but that's what I needed to put in. Let's continue with and that's where you get to that game. Making sure that I could see. Oh, I mean, McAdee was basically by request from the Dogs on Acid folks. They were like, "Could you do this thing?" And I was like, "Oh, I could give it a try." So yeah, the McAdee and MackeyQ are basically because Dogs on Acid loved me and what I do and made it be known. Like, the city of London is probably the most Airwindows heavy place in the world. The most visits from there from anywhere. So yeah, very cool. Blumline Shuffler, I'm not sure. I could look it up. It's not happening today. It's getting on towards 8 o'clock in the morning and I'm still grinding away at this. I started at about 2:30. So let's see, where were we at? We needed to update this. I don't think we, oh no, we can add it to EQ. But I don't want to make too much of a fuss over this because the video is weird. It doesn't really relate to the plugin. The plugin is better than the video. But let's save those. And let's also I tried using a weird YouTube name. Don't think it helped. So we're going to go back to the usual title and we'll save these changes. It's a very low ranking video, but that's fine because they can't all be zingers. And this one I had bug fixing to do, so I'd rather not that many people see this. And let's see. Those who need to see it will see it. And I think I am done with that, although I do need to copy the YouTube link. So there we are. got the new, it was a cute intro. This is not usually what you see, and it's very blurry, and the reason it is a screen at an angle viewed from across the room with the same camera that I'm doing the usual recording with. Like I said, I'd start slowly pulling out, and eventually you can see that you've been watching this the whole time and listening to the sound of the monitors the whole time. And it's actually good because if you try to record the raw output of that game, the compression freaks out and dies, because I made some choices that do not compress well on YouTube or any video process. Oh, falling Airwindows console using vtools mux. Cool. And we are actively doing the debugging stream. And it's actually good because if you try to record the raw output of that game, the compression freaks out. And look, it's us. Choices that do not compress well. Here we are. But enough of that, I still have work to do. And this is now saved and finished, and I've got the, so over TLDW I gotta put the YouTube video, and then in the end I put the forum version of these links. Copy, close, and that saves me a little trouble. But when I'm doing the forum post, I gotta amend this, square bracket, close square bracket, B for bold. Oh, did it wrong. Get rid of the HTML tag. On B, on URL, now I have a link to it for the versions of forums that use BB code. And that's all. I don't have any smileys. Each forum has its own version of smileys. Gearspace has a cool guy smiley that's spelled Kuj. KVR has a better smiley if you do a capital D for the smiley. Dogs on Acid is extra fun because you can do colon teeth colon, and it's like a horrible monster with rotted teeth smiley that I absolutely love. And I always do that because it's like, yes, I know about your forum. I'm doing a special smiley that only your forum has. I love doing that. But it's not going to happen today. Or maybe it will. Yeah, let's give him smileys. Dedicated smileys for everyone. And this has to have dedicated YouTube format. Post. Oh dear, I screwed up. Let's make this go away. This is going to take me a while. I screwed up. This is a Facebook post, and now it has stacked up a bunch of links that are not going to work. So I got to delete this text off, and then I got to delete the code. And I got to delete the Airwindows.com, and I'll keep the YouTube. And now we slowly delete all of these dead links. I messed up. I should not have done that on the YouTube page. Look at how long it's taken. It says page not found. It is not happy. So we're going to make all of that go away, and then I'll get away from the Facebook page. The only reason I'm there is because the Audiophiles group, they're enthusiastic, and the lady that I was dating was very gung-ho about me supporting them, and I had left Facebook on purpose. But it's like, yeah, I can make a post for these guys. So there we go, and that will direct those folks to the links that I'm not able to put directly. So we got that ready to roll. This, however, does get to use the BB code, and the YouTube link is direct, and we will do a capital D for the smiley here. BB code is fine here. YouTube link directly works here. Cooge is gear slots only. And then PRW regular old smiley. These folks have seen everything, so it's like you don't act too fancy around them. And back to GearSpace. This is why the GearSpace video shows at such a small size, because you have a special format. I think this is the only way you can do it. So here's our YouTube link, and now we're going to go through and do all the posted posts. Little small link for the GearSpace post. All of this stuff. Oh, and what's going on here? I gotta fix that. Let's fix that. What happened? Oh, there's an extra bracket. How'd that happen? Well, that's no good. That's a mistake. This is what it should be. Save changes. Nope, we're still not happy, and we've got wrong kinds of brackets. What's going on? What's going on? This has been a long morning. URL equals. URL equals, not URL is a surrounding bracket. Now it'll work. There we go. There's our link. If I click it, it has to save as a zip archive, and boom, and there we go, and it is alive. It does in fact work. This one does not have the link, so it'll be fine. We'll find, you go and get the link off of the YouTube, because Facebook is not a proper forum and you can't set it up that way. Let's see whether we screwed this up. We did. That's not right. Okay, time to fix that. URL equals. And we'll see if it works. There you go. Alrighty. So on and so forth. And that was KVR. Dogs on acid. URL equals. That was the only change I had to make. There we are. And I got my smiley bad tooth British guy down here. So that is my dedicated post for there. And PRW also got to update this. URL equals. And there we go. And right, well, maybe not not that much. Make up the volume. And go to my channel. And go to the debugging stream. And we have successfully done the updates and posted all the plugins. I can now put away the Raspberry Pi and the laptop for the moment, and you have Sleusonic. Sleusonic is live. We are successfully done with our epic stream. And nothing left but foolishness. I can now put away the Raspberry Pi and the laptop. This being our foolishness. And you have Sleusonic. And there we go. Sleusonic is live. We are successfully done. We're going to get into the insane feedback, Alan Psychedelic Breakfast. As the fire burns to embers and Chris goes back to bed at 8 o'clock in the morning. We are successfully done. We're going to get into this has been kind of fun. Feedback, Alan Psychedelic Breakfast. As the fire burns to embers and cheers. Chris goes back to bed. I hope anybody who has been hanging out with me for this has enjoyed themselves. Now, kind of fun. Feedback, Alan Psychedelic Breakfast. I'm going to make that stop for now. Oh, I'm not quite done. See this? I've successfully uploaded this, but that's not everything. I have not yet. At some point I'll register with them. We've got one more thing. You always forget the one thing, right? I got one more thing. Hopefully this will log me on. Otherwise I will point it at the fire and log on. Oh, yep. Enjoy my cozy fire for just a little bit longer because we're digging up more passwords and things again. I'll get back with you in a moment. Honestly, the way that I do that stuff, I would only have to hide my hands, because if you had the actual password text file, it still wouldn't give you the passwords. They're code words mentally. Anywho, the final thing that I have to do today is update the media fire. Plugins, select all this stuff, and files with conflicting names exist. Choose what to do to replace them, and we're going to replace them. And away they go. Usually it shows me more. It's weird. Well. We've had 343 downloads of Airwindows and Airwindowpedia from here. 436 downloads of the Raspberry Pi Linux. 765 downloads of regular Linux VSTs, 1,597 downloads of the Retro Mac, 1,035 downloads of the Retro Mac VSTs, 1,309 of the Retro Windows 32-bit, 4,798 downloads of the Mac AUs, the signed ones, the modern ones, 1,841 of the signed VSTs for Mac, apparently 409 downloads of Starter Kit, and 2,615 downloads of the 64-bit Windows VSTs. So that's the total number of downloads that have ever come off of MediaFire, and I'm updating those right now. Once I have finished updating MediaFire, that would really truly be the final thing for posting. So you have walked with me through the entire process, starting from like 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's been about 5 hours of continuous work per plugin, including all of those things. That doesn't count coming up with the plugin in the first place, which does take something. But like if you already had the plugin, all of the steps that go into making it are the things we've walked through in these two live streams, the one of which happened up, and we have overcharged the laptop, unfortunately. Well, it probably won't fall over and die right away, but I was hoping to catch that before it happened, and I did not catch it before it happened. So we'll let it run for just a little bit longer, and it'll go to like 99% or something. Normally with like fancy lithium battery powered things like phones and laptops and stuff, you want to run them down to about 20% or charge them up to about 80% or 90% or so, and not like fully cram them full of electricity and not drain them all the way down to nothing. I have apparently done both today, so my laptop lost a few months off of its life through that, but I mean this is a work day. I did the best I could at keeping track of everything. And 99% verifying one file. That means we don't have to keep these. And I'm going to be really bold in it. We're done. So my streams are all screwed up and don't know what they're doing. I don't know whether I'm successfully streaming or not. I've been trying to. It's hiccuping and buffering a lot. It says excellent connection, but the little window is buffering like mad. So, talk to you folks later. Bye-bye.